Hello and welcome to a new episode of Go Big with Mika. I'm your host, Mika Govik, and today I'm super excited to host Nelly Yusupova. Is that
Yes.
how it? Got it. Nelly Yusupova, and we are talking about confidence as a non-tech founder. If you are watching this live, we absolutely want to hear from you. So please type your questions in the chat, and we'll try to not try to. We will just incorporate them in our conversation. Welcome, Nelly. I'm so excited to have you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, Mija. The moment that we connected, it was just like talk, talk, talk. So I'm so excited to have this conversation. And this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart because a lot of my work revolves around working with non-technical founders. So I'm happy to share my perspectives on this.
Yeah. Um, and I know that many people in my audience are non-technical people in tech. So this is super, super relevant for a lot of people. But before we dive in, this is my big topic, my big umbrella topic is confidence. So maybe we'll start a little by you telling our audience and me what your take on confidence is, and if you consider yourself a confident person.
Yeah, well, I absolutely consider myself a confident person. I don't know how I got that confidence. I think I got that confidence because I grew up in the former Soviet Union. And as a child, I was able to and allowed to explore. I was a tomboy, and my parents didn't try to control me. They kind of let me be, and we had the opportunity to be free. There was no such thing as we have here with parents, where they have to take you everywhere and they have to be with you constantly. So we got to climb the trees and fall down a lot and learn a lot of things just by ourselves. And that self-reliance and being able to believe in myself and being able to know that I can keep myself safe. I think that's the root of where you get confidence. And so that's where I think I got it, because throughout my career and all of the different things, especially coming to the United States as a first generation immigrant, I was thrown in a situation where I had to figure it out when I didn't know anything at all. And it was scary. And being able to have that experience, knowing that, hey, if I fall down, it's going to be okay. And if I try,
Mm,
I'm going to learn. That is all a part of confidence,
yeah.
and being able to be successful in anything that you do. I think confidence is really at the core of everything. And if you have fears and you are not able to take a step forward, I believe is because of the lack of confidence. So if we work on ourselves and figure out how to bring more confidence into your life and work on that skill, I think it'll help you in all areas of your life, both personal, professional, and everywhere else.
Absolutely, and it's neat. I share that childhood experience. I grew up in Germany, though in the west, not in the east. But I think it was like if something happened, you just either figure it out, or if you come running crying, then adults were like, "Oh, okay, what is going on?" But not before, right? So that was, yeah, that is
Yeah.
actually. I'm glad you say that, because that is actually a confidence builder for me. I always say, when I think about my confidence and the way I teach people to tap their confidence, I think about me as like maybe a 7-year-old like ice skater, like figure skater. And I mean, nobody here has heard my name as a child athlete, so I was not like world class. I was like,
Right.
it was just in my small world
Yeah,
that
but I think it teaches
I
you
was
a lot.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so, as a parent now, I am so conscious of teaching my kids confidence and
Hmm.
letting them fall down and letting them figure it out and not try to help them and be a helicopter parent, right? Which is what
Yep.
I think from the early days is we take away confidence from the child if we are constantly involved and are doing all of the things that we think are helping them, but in fact are in the future, they're going to start to question, am I good enough? Do I need to like thinking twice before taking a step. And that, especially for entrepreneurs, is not an option, right?
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur, you have to be able to go in with confidence. And whether you're pitching, whether you're building a product or managing people, as a leader, you have to have a lot of confidence. And if you don't have confidence, this is why it's so important. If you don't have confidence, everyone that is working for you is not going to have confidence themselves. And that, I think, as a leader, is such a big important part of confidence. And why, even if you don't think you know the answer, you have to act like you do, right? And
Yeah.
the confidence itself will come.
That is so true. Confidence is contagious, but so is lack of confidence, right? And I totally forgot to introduce you. I mean, I don't know. Sorry, people. Sorry, people. I just moved house the last few days, and there's some brain fog going on here. Um, I am talking to Nelly about the confidence as a non-tech founder, because that is really what she teaches. You see the techspeak.co. That's where you find her. That's her company. And she has every reason to be confident about her career too, because she is the CTO and has over 18 years of experience leading companies to technical excellence. She's a startup advisor, an outsourced CTO, and the creator of TechSpeak for Entrepreneurs. She's on a mission to help entrepreneurs minimize technology mistakes. Oh God, don't we all know what minimize them, right? Because they will happen anyway. And through her online masterclass, TechSpeak for Entrepreneurs, she provides the roadmap to successfully manage technology teams and projects, even if you're not technical or know how to code. And that's, of course, non-technical founders. That's a pretty large group nowadays. Nelly was included in Fast Company's League of Extraordinary Women and has been at the forefront of the women's movement online since 1999. Wow. She was also named Wall Street Journal's Woman on the IT Fast Track. Man, I mean, I read all that before, and I know you were fabulous, but reading that out loud again. And she's a speaker and presenter for many organizations, major industry events, including Women's Entrepreneur Center, the Founders Institute, SaaS Academy, Blackest Tech, WeWork Labs, Tech Day. Oh my God. And a very, very long list. Small Business Summit has been featured in Inc. Magazine, NBC Today Show, Fast Company Magazine, Newsday, O'Reilly, Smart Money, Small Biz, Tech Republic, Women's Radio. Okay, so now we're here. Now, sorry about not sharing that first thing. But now let's get into that confidence as a non-tech founder, because yes, you need to convey the confidence even if you don't feel it in that moment. And that's a lot of the work I do, trying to teach people how to tap into confidence, how to see confidence as a transferable skill to use, because I think if you're employed, it's applications and interviews that have that effect on you. But as a non-technical founder in tech, that's just a totally new level when you pitch, when you fundraise. So how do you get people started on this journey?
Well, I think the reason why people have lack of confidence is because they don't know something. Something is a black box. And when you don't know something, you automatically have fear around it. And that fear translates into not having confidence. So the first thing that I teach to a lot of non-technical founders, and I say this is not an option. If you're going to be running a tech startup and you're in tech and you're going to be managing people who are technical, you have to be technically literate. And what does that mean? Technically literate is understanding the basics of how technology functions. What are all the different terminologies? How does the web work? How does your application work on the back end? And have that conceptual understanding of how does this all work and connect so that, and I'm not telling you to become a coder because that's not realistic. And you actually have a lot of skills as a non-technical founder that are very, very important. And being able to do sales calls and business development and all of these other things that are business related, those are all skills that are important for the business. So you don't need to be technical, but you need to be technically literate so that you can understand how to communicate effectively with your technical people, how to set the right expectations, what are the processes that you need to use to manage the team. And the rest of it is you're going to figure it out, right? You're
Yeah.
going to be able to tap into the people who are the experts. But 99% of the time, a lot of miscommunications and issues arise because you have a completely hands-off approach to not knowing anything about what's happening on the tech side of your business. And if you accidentally, or if you get matched up with the wrong person who either is advising you incorrectly, or um, they think they are, right, but they're not necessarily giving you the right resources for where you are, at what stage you are in business, um, or they're just not doing the work, right? That happens all the time. You just have no way of knowing. And even if you have a technical co-founder, I always tell founders, you still need to understand the tech side of your business enough to be able to understand why certain decisions were made, all of the different things. Where is all the code? How is everything structured? Because this is what happens when you just start working together. Everything is great, and you're like, you do the tech, I do the business, and a year and a half goes by, things start to fall apart, which inevitably happens in a lot of startups. Number one
Yeah.
reason why a lot of founders or startups never get off the ground is because of founders not being able to get along. And if you have a hands-off approach as a non-technical founder, that year and a half later, when things fall apart, guess who has the shorter end of the stick, right? The non-technical
The
person.
non-technical founder. Yeah. Yeah.
All of
Yeah.
a sudden, you have no knowledge of anything about the tech. You don't have any way of getting the code or anything else that happened in that year and a half, right? And
Right.
so
Right.
um, one of those reasons is to be able to become technically literate. That'll give you the confidence to really understand and stand the ground of, I have value in this, right? You can be a
Yeah.
part of the decision making rather than being rendered to the sidelines. Everybody else is making decisions on your behalf. And it's going to make such a big difference in attracting better technical people as well,
Yep.
because
Yep.
now they understand that you know what you're doing, and they'll have a lot more trust in you.
Right. Right. And I love that. I think that's the main distinction is you have to be technically literate. It's about the literacy and not about learning how to code. Because, of course, I mean, the best you could achieve at that point, if you're the non-technical founder, is that you become a mediocre coder, right? I mean, probably. And I think it's very similar. You are an immigrant, I am an immigrant. I find it mind-blowing when people move to a foreign country and don't learn the language.
Yeah.
And that is for me the same situation. If I'm moving to the foreign country of tech, so to speak, if I bring my expertise to a technical product, then I need to learn the language of that foreign country, no matter how difficult it is. And it might have a different alphabet. Well,
Right. Well, I think when it comes to product, there is so much that is missing. If you, as a non-technical person, your job automatically becomes the product person in the early days,
yeah,
you understand the most about the customers, their pain
yeah,
points, and all of that needs to be translated into the product. But if you don't understand how to communicate all of that and how to talk to the people who are going to be building the solutions for you, you're going to be way off. Like, you won't be able to even get a product good enough if you don't
right,
understand that whole process and how to do that effectively.
right, right. And I mean, I'm still, as a non-technical founder, I am a leader. Right. And so
Absolutely.
a leader needs to become able to communicate with their team, even if the team, of course, does a lot of things that the leader cannot in this case. What I'm interested in is how did you find this niche for yourself? Because you are a technical person, a highly accomplished technical person, a
Yeah.
CTO. So, how did you get to teach people like me how to navigate this process?
Well, I didn't come from a technical background. Just believe it
Mhm.
or not, when I decided that I was going to major in computer science, I actually didn't know anything about computers or tech. I
Wow.
never had a computer. I, in fact, thought that they were going to teach me Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel really, really well because I never had a computer. And that's what I thought they were going to teach me. I had no concept that you could write code and tell the computer what to do instead of how to use it.
This is
So,
amazing. How did you?
yes.
I mean, okay, back up. How did you decide to major in computer science without having had a computer? I mean, seriously,
Well, so this was in the early 90s, and I
yeah.
was in school and deciding what to do with my life.
Hmm.
As a first generation immigrant, time was a big factor for me. I wanted to get
Hmm.
to places a lot faster, and I
Right.
wanted to not waste because I saw a lot of college students in the United States go to school for 5 or 6 years and they still didn't decide on the major. I was like, that's not going to be me. I'm going to
No.
decide on
No.
what I'm going to do, and that's it. And I'm going to do it no matter how hard it's going to be. That was my mindset.
Hmm.
So I was trying to decide, what am I going to be? I wanted to be a doctor, but then in my early teens, I was like, okay, I'm going to be 35 before I make a serious paycheck. That's my
Hmm.
thinking, right?
Yep.
Like that's
Yep.
not going to work. Even though I really wanted to be a doctor, I decided to be more practical and study computers because this is the early 90s. I had a conversation with my guidance counselor. He's like, if you go into tech, if you go into computers, you're always going to have a job, and you're going to have a job as soon as you get out of school. And
He
that
was
was my
right. He was
motivation
right
initially,
about
right?
that.
Which is great advice. Yes, it was great advice. I had no idea, like I didn't have the opportunity to choose, right?
Hmm.
And that lack of choice was actually serving me much better. And that lack of choice was actually the reason why I never gave up, right? It was hard, so hard. The first year,
Yeah,
it
I
was
bet.
really, really hard because I had to make that leap first before even studying it. Like, what is this, right?
Hmm.
What are we doing? Why am I not learning Microsoft Word and actually learning how to code and what is coding? But once I understood, and that's, I think there's that learning curve, talking about confidence, right? Being able
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
get over the hump of the initial hard thing. Whatever you want to learn is going to be hard at the beginning, but being able to give it the chance to even understand it enough to see if you like it. Because most people, they see the hardship, they see how hard it is, and they give up. But I didn't have that option. I was like, okay,
Hmm.
I have to
Hmm.
do it no matter what. I made a commitment. I'm not going to waste time. And after I went over that initial hump, that's where the love for technology came. That's where I
Yeah.
was like, okay, if I actually can build the things, right? That's incredible, right? And I found it so creative. I found it so fulfilling. I actually finished my computer science degree in 3 years instead of the
Oh,
standard
wow.
4. It was crazy. Like, I don't know how I did it, but it was like I just loved it
Well,
so
with
much.
your bio, I mean, I know how you did it because you're an incredibly smart woman and an overachiever. But
Yeah. So that, I mean, that's
and the pressure on immigrant children is
absolutely. And
youth
it was
is
just,
real. Yeah.
it is real. And I loved the path that I chose. And so the rest of it was just learning everything on the fly. And I just said yes to a lot of opportunities and
Hmm.
not that confidence in myself, knowing that
Yep.
I'm going to be able to figure out the answer because if I needed to work hard, I'm willing to do that. If I needed to study extra, I was willing to do that. Right. And it's not because I knew all the answers. I had no idea all of this stuff that was thrown at me throughout my career. I got offered a CTO position at WebGirls, which was the internet company that really stamped everything for me. I
Right.
became a CTO in my early 20s. I know nothing about being a CTO or managing teams or process or anything, right? But because I said yes and I was willing to put in the work and figure it out along the way, that is what really made me who I am. And through that, I became a speaker and a trainer. I
Mhm.
got connected to a lot of startup conferences. And that's to answer your questions, like how do I get into tech speak and teaching? That's where I heard a lot of these horror stories. After
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
event that I did, I had a huddle of entrepreneurs around me, and they were sharing their horror stories of $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 down the drain, and not even the money part, but
Mhm.
years of
Yeah.
opportunity time lost
Yeah.
because they didn't know the basics. They didn't know how to manage a team. They didn't know how to communicate well. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was like, okay, let me find some resources for these people, poor people who are getting taken advantage of. And I couldn't find anything. So I
Yeah.
said, well, let me create the curriculum because I do this every single day. And that I actually have the empathy for non-technical founders because I was in that situation. I came from a non-technical background and now understood how hard it is and how, in my early career, technical people would look down at me and talk down to me and made me feel like I'm worthless. Right. And I felt that pain. And I was just at
Yeah.
that point, I think I was actually being prepared for serving non-technical founders because I vowed I would never, ever talk down to anyone who's not at my level.
Yeah.
So all of
Yeah.
those things, the empathy that I developed over the years, coming from the background that I did, was exactly what I needed to do with non-technical founders.
That is beautiful. I mean, I want to stress out one point because that resonated so much with me. Um, just say yes to an opportunity, especially if you're watching this and you're really young. Say yes if it's legal, if it's I mean, there are a couple of boundaries around that. Just say yes. But I feel like that's always been the same for me. I said yes to a lot of opportunities where I had no clue how I would do that. I'm like, let's say yes first. I mean, if I can't figure it out, I could still say no and bail out. And I mean, yeah, that sucks, but uh, might as well try it. Might as well see if I can wing it,
Right. But I
and
think,
figure it
I think
out.
the perception is a lot of people who go into an opportunity, they have all the answers.
Yeah,
And most of the people that I know who are playing at that level, they have
yeah,
no answers. Nobody
yeah,
knows the answers. So many things in business and in life change on a whim. Even if you think you know the answers,
yeah,
your ability to be flexible, so to any situation, and experimenting and doing different things is what is really going to make you valuable.
right.
And so nobody has all the answers, and knowing that. And I think to tie it back to confidence, I
Mm-hmm.
think the most important part of confidence is confidence with yourself. Right?
Yes.
It's trusting yourself, knowing that whatever is required, that you can either do the work or find the resource or have the connections or the network to be able to figure it out. Right?
Yeah,
And that's what I've eventually built around myself. Number
yeah.
one, I had the confidence in myself from my childhood and all
Mm-hmm.
the like moving here to the United States, learning the language, doing that. I knew that all of those things that I was able to do, I didn't have any of the answers, but eventually I figured it out, right? And it was because I did the hard work. And then
Yeah.
eventually that scales once you have a network. Yeah, once
Right.
you have people around you or advisors or people that you can tap into, that actually accelerates your learning and also gives
Mm-hmm.
you more confidence that in yourself that you can figure it out. And that's why it's so important also to have the skill, to have the insight into the process for how things are done, but also have the people around you and the network around you that you can build over time, that you can tap into to be able to get you from point A to point B a lot faster. All of that
Yeah.
will give you a lot more
Yeah.
confidence.
I mean, that's really, all of these things are key. And I feel the self-confidence piece is hard enough when you're a technical person in tech, right? Especially as a woman. There are enough hurdles, obstacles, glass ceilings, glass boxes everywhere, that make it harder. And for a very technical person in tech, for an engineer, I would say, okay, try, have confidence in your skills. because you have the degree, you have this, you have that. For a non-technical person in tech, your skill set is a different one, right? So now it's really about the self-confidence, as you said, the confidence. I can figure things out, or the famous what's her name, Glenn? The we can do hard things. That type
Well,
of thing.
think about Steve Jobs and Wozniak, right?
Mm-hmm.
The brainiac who could do the tech without the Steve Jobs couldn't build the company that Apple became,
Right.
right? But
Right.
Steve Jobs understood everything that Wozniak was doing. He understood
Yes.
it. He just couldn't do it, right? And
Right.
that's what I want non-technical founders to do. I want them to have a deep understanding about what is it that their company is doing from a technical standpoint, every single detail of it. You
Mm-hmm.
need to be able to talk about it. You need to be able to say it. You don't need to know how to do it, but you
Right.
need to be able to have conversations with the technical people, even on the decision making, right? Because then if you have a conversation with an investor, the
Mm-hmm.
investor
Mm-hmm.
has doubt that you
Yeah.
can't do it. You're non-technical. They will tell you there's too much risk. I'm not going to invest in you. You don't have a technical co-founder, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But if you can show them that you understand the tech, that you understand how it all works, and you have the exact process for how you're going to manage the team, how you are making progress with the team, right? Despite the fact that you don't have a technical co-founder, that gives the investor the confidence in you that you can make it happen. Because oftentimes if you walk into a room and it's not just the confidence is not just saying and having the skill, right? It's also acting that way, being open and standing up and really like talking with your hands, and it's body language as well. All of that is going to communicate to the other person that you know what you're talking about. And I have so many stories that when I launched TechSpeak, I used to teach it as a boot camp. Over 2 days, I would teach the entire 10-step process to my founders. And
Mm-hmm.
I would see a transformation literally happen in front of my eyes in just 2 days. So they would walk
Wow.
in one day
Mm-hmm.
and actually learning the process, the 10 steps for how you actually build and launch a product using lean and agile and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Founders became completely different people because now they said, oh, this is not as hard as I thought. Oh, if I have the step by step for how to actually do this, I can do it. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
that gave them so much, like they stood up much more straight. Now they knew that if some technical person confronted them and asked them, why are you doing it this way? Or should we do it this way? Right. That gave them now the arsenal that they needed to be able to become more confident. And so
Yep.
it's a combination of things. It's knowing the skills, right? Being technically literate and knowing the process. And anytime you have a black box around something, it seems a lot harder than it is. The reason why technology has become so easy for me is because I've been in it constantly. But if I
Right.
go into being a mechanic, all of a sudden, like my confidence will not, or when I was in sales, the same thing. I didn't know how to sell. I was so terrified of selling, but I put myself in there. I learned how to sell. The very first year, a few years of selling, I was shaking, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
even speaking. When I got into speaking, I was not a good speaker when I started. I couldn't put two words together. You should have heard me. I had a
Yep.
lot of training, and that the more training that I got, the more I actually did it and went into it, the more confidence I got.
Yep. And that's the thing. If you just have to master that initial piece, right? Because at a certain point you reach that threshold where you have put in a lot of hard work and you have received training and you have your initial successes, and then you have a more solid base to build that confidence.
Yeah.
The really hard part is getting to that point where you can stack the confidence blocks onto each other, so to speak,
Absolutely. I think
and not on quicksand.
Yeah. There is so much importance in what you just said. Having the base and the foundation is what you need initially, because once, and that takes the longest time to learn. Because
Yeah.
once you have that foundation, learning and stacking your knowledge is going to be so much faster. And by the way, when we talk about technical, non-technical, you know, everything I'm talking about and learning the basics and having the foundational knowledge is necessary, especially if you're the CEO, for you to be able to do in all areas of your business, right? For
Yeah.
sales and marketing and business development. Like, it's the hardest part of the CEO's job, is to be able to speak and understand the jobs of even marketing, right? I
Right.
have technical people or non-technical people working with marketing people and getting into the same issues, because if you don't know the basics and foundational knowledge about marketing, how do you know that they're giving you good advice, right? And
Thank
you
you
have
for
no way of
mentioning that. Yeah, because there are a couple of skill sets that people think everybody has, like communication. And I'm like, no, no. It's like, yeah, I take photos too, but that doesn't make me a skilled photographer or someone you would want to entrust with a revenue stream that involves photography. And so that is similar, but it's not as clear to people because yes, I can just go out and speak. Yes, I can just go out and take photos or write a blog post. But if you want to do it on a professional level, it's a very specific skill set, and again, it comes with a certain language
yes.
and often certain processes. And
Yes.
yeah, yeah, I really love that. So I'm pretty sure you still encounter a lot of non-technical founders who tell you first thing, oh, I need to find a CTO first. I need to find my technical co-founder. That's my top priority. Or am I wrong with that?
Absolutely. So they have an idea and they immediately think, I need a technical person to execute it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have this whole concept that I've developed called Earn Your Technical Co-founder. Because the reality is, especially in today's environment, great technical people who are willing to take a risk on a startup, they're already working on their own startup. They don't need a non-technical to be able to jump
Right.
in, right? It's like they don't need an idea person. Most likely that's the case. So now you're going after the risk averse
Mm-hmm.
developers who already
Yeah.
have so much opportunity. They have jobs, they can get paid a ton of money anywhere else, especially if they're good. And
Mm-hmm.
for you to be able to convince them to take a risk on you and your startup without any background, without any traction, is pretty close to zero, right? So unless you already have someone, maybe you worked with them in the past in college, or you know them from your past life, or maybe your neighbors or whatever, you already have a built up relationship, no one's going to take a risk on you. And so Earn Your Technical Co-founder is the strategy where you can figure out how to build your MVP really on your own, right? As a non-technical founder, all the
Yeah.
stuff that I teach in my programs. And that will parallel to you building the relationship. So as you're building your product, you're building your MVP, you are meeting a lot of technical people and building relationships with them so that you can understand, are they a good fit, right? Because you're actually looking for a true partner. Like us, I always equate finding a technical co-founder to finding a spouse, because that's,
Mm-hmm.
you're working so much with them. You have to be aligned on
I had
values.
some trial and error on that part. Yes, yes.
Yes,
So that
yes.
that resonates.
So like I said earlier, the number one reason why a lot of founders, why a lot of companies never get off the ground or fail is because of founders relationships not working out. It's not because they
Yeah.
couldn't build a product or anything else. It's because they can't get along or figure out how to build a company that they need to build, right? One has
Right.
one idea, the other has another idea. And so you don't want to be in that situation. You want to be able to take the time to build a relationship with them, test them out, and see, are they truly the person to become a partner. And
Yeah.
so doing that in parallel gives you the ability to move forward with your product and also meet the relevant people, so that by the time at some point you already have traction, you can start to pitch people with a lot more confidence, by the way, because you now
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I have traction, I have people who care about this, there's a market for this, right?
Yeah.
I already have some data that will give you a lot more confidence to know, right? And it gives you a lot more options as well to ask for better terms, because you've already
Yeah.
done some of the riskiest work. You're de-risking this opportunity for, whether it's a technical person or even an investor, same strategy works, right? The more you take the risk out, the more confidence you get in the idea, but also the more you can dictate the terms of that relationship. And a lot of my founders actually realize, the people who go through the TechSpeak program, they realize maybe I don't actually need a technical co-founder. Maybe I need a technical lead. And that's going to be a developer that I'm going to give equity to, but it's not going to be half of your company.
Right.
And so it gives you a lot more optionality to be able to move forward with. And, you can choose. Gives you a lot more.
I am mind blown, this entire concept of earn your technical co-founder. Because first, you're right. In the beginning, there is no balance at all between the non-technical founder and someone who's an expert in the technology in that field you need. Yeah, but then you have leverage when you earn your technical co-founder. That is mind-blowing. This is fascinating. This is good stuff. Thank you, thank you, Nelly. One question tying in with that. Let's say you go that route and you have your technical lead, and then you start talking to investors, and you will, of course, every single time have that question about you being a non-tech founder. Every single time, right? There's no way around. That's never a white elephant. That's always very visible and talked about. So what do you recommend how people handle that?
Well, if you don't have a technical co-founder and you are not confident about owning that, you're always going to be asked that question, right? So that's really the key. A lot of the investors, the reason why they say we need a technical co-founder and a non-technical co-founder, because in their mind, that framework de-risks the opportunity, right? It increases the chances of a company succeeding. But we know that framework is not always true. There's been plenty of non-technical founders making it without a technical co-founder. In fact, the most famous case is Airbnb. 2 non-technical founders. They didn't have a co-founder. They actually found a developer who built the early version of their product. And then eventually that developer became their 3rd co-founder. Right? So they earned their technical co-founder. Right? And so you being able to say, hey, I know I don't have a technical co-founder, but I'm technically literate. I know how to manage my team. This is the strategy that I'm going to use to build a product, even if you have to outsource it, right? A lot of the stuff that I teach through my programs, that will give you the arsenal that you need to be able to then go to the investor confidently and say, hey, do you want me to get a co-founder so I can put a check mark that I have one? Or do you actually want me to run my company efficiently and effectively because I have this plan? Right? It's like no one's going to question you if you walk into a room and you're confident about the plan that you have. And I actually had somebody early in my programs, like this is back in 2012, the first program or the second program, I can't remember. There was a founder there who was in marketing. She didn't have a technical team. She applied to an accelerator in Florida. They didn't take her because they required a technical co-founder. And so she came to TechSpeak to learn.
Still pretty common. Yes, still pretty common, right?
Still very common. And so she came to TechSpeak. She took the 2-day boot camp. And after that, she did some of that work. So initial work, she did the clickable prototype. She did the validation. She did and put together the entire plan for how she's going to build this product and manage the team. She went back and reapplied to the accelerator with that plan. So now she's a completely different person. She has a plan. She knows exactly how to overcome the objections that they're going to have. That's really important because you already know they're going to ask you. This is how you're going to answer. She's already has the answers, how to communicate that really clearly. And she got in, even though they were requiring a technical co-founder.
Wow.
So I know like this works, and I've seen in action a lot of founders sharing their stories with me where they did say that. And I think it's really the key thing is to be confidently communicating the plan that you have. Of course, if you don't have a plan, if you're not technical or technically literate, I would have I wouldn't want to invest my money into it. I know you're not going to be successful. It's very, very hard to be totally non-technical and not have the network around you that you need. And if you need to, you can always get a fractional CTO or an advisor, a technical advisor, right? To talked about building the network that you can tap into. Of course, you're not going to have the answers, but there is ways that you as a non-technical person can build the padding around you that is necessary to make your company successful.
Yeah. That is fabulous. And I would love to talk for another hour, but we're reaching time. So if you're watching this and you are as interested in learning more from Nelly as I am, please check out her programs. There are free videos that are excellent starting points, really full of so much content. It's amazing that you give them away for free, because there's a lot of very, very helpful stuff in there. So people check that out. And yeah, techspeak.co is where you find everything, and on the LinkedIn show notes there are all the links. And one last question. I'm really interested in what you have to say about that. It's my favorite question to ask. What advice would you give your 16-year-old self?
My 16-year-old self. What advice would I give my 16-year-old self? I think to worry less about what other people thought of me.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I did go through especially in my teens, where people judge you or they have opinions about you and you try to conform and be something you're not. And then over the years, I learned that other people's opinions around me doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is my own opinion about me. And do I love what I'm doing? Am I living up to the standards that I set for myself? And that is the only thing that matters, because everyone else is always going to have judgments. They're always, no matter at what stage you are in, right?
Right.
People will always question what you're doing. And oftentimes I can't control that, right? They're talking from their own current circumstance, and their fears that they have for me are actually their own fears, not my own fears. And so trusting that earlier would have been so much easier, right? Because it's the pressure of feeling everybody else's weight is just never going to serve you. I wish I would have realized that sooner, but if I had that answer at 16, oh my gosh, that would have been amazing.
yeah, totally. I so agree. And it's still something that people need to hear when they're not 16, but 26, 36, 46, 56, and so on, right? So everybody watching this is a good reminder. It really only counts what you think of yourself, and the judgments of others really do not have to define you. They only can when you let them.
Exactly.
Thank you, Nelly, so much. This was amazing. Just tell our viewers where you would like to be contacted. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, I am on social media everywhere. I'm Digital Woman on all of the social channels. If you go on techspeak.co, you can subscribe to my newsletter. And that's probably the best way to stay in touch, because anytime I'm doing something, I announce it there. I do a lot of lives and answer questions, and any free trainings that I'm doing that are live, I'm going to share that there. So get on the list. And the free trainings are also a great way to start getting to know the 10-step process. I give away a lot of information and how it needs to be done and why it needs to be done, all the concepts of earning a technical co-founder and developer as a service arrangement, a term that I made up that we didn't talk about today. If you work with outsourced teams, all of that is going to be really helpful for you to have in your mind.
Again, thank you so much. I think we will have another episode of this, because there's still so much I want to talk to you about.
Sounds
but
great.
For today, this is it. So thanks for watching. And if you see the replay and you have questions, just reach out afterwards. Both Nelly and I are super, super happy to talk to you at a later point too. Thank you and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
See you
We'll talk to
next
soon.
week.